G'day guys, welcome to episode 153 of Ask Jack D. Today we do something we have never done before. We give Rose Maloney the opportunity to ask a question. She asks, what is my definition of an entrepreneur? Which is quite different to the traditional and strict definition of what it means to be an entrepreneur. Stay tuned for my definition. At the end I ask you, how do you define an entrepreneur? And does it even matter what we call it at the end of the day?
28 and I'm trying to shape history, pulling from the sky for some strength to take with me, line up the stars, fly away quickly and push the world forward like a tidal wave hit me. I ride the wave swiftly, I fear no man.
G'day guys, welcome to episode 153 of Ask Jack D. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't yet, if you're not on Snapchat, you need to get on Snapchat. We're all on it these days, aren't we, Rosie? It's no longer for 16-year-olds who are at high school. It's now a legitimate platform for just about everybody. The age bracket is certainly moving up and the engagement is very, very high. So if you're not there, get there. We're taking a lot of questions from Snapchat for Ask Jack D these days, as well as doing Jack Chats over there. So it's like a double. You can ask questions for Ask Jack. You can also ask questions for Jack Chat. Say that after 6 beers. Welcome to episode 153, guys. Today we are taking a question. You might recognize the name. This person was feeling a little bit left out, believe it or not, because she wasn't able to ask questions for Ask Jack. So I said, Rosie, why don't we just take a question from you? And she's jumped at that opportunity. So Rosie, fire away. What would you like to ask for Ask Jack D?
Okay, so my question was inspired by a meeting we had the other day about Unwritten. So it's, what's your definition of entrepreneurship and how is it different to the standard definition? Hashtag Ask Jack D.
Love that. Okay, good question. And the reason we were talking about that in the meeting around Unwritten is, in my view, the definition of entrepreneur has broadened significantly, right? And I've always been reluctant to enter a conversation around what is an entrepreneur, because I don't think it's very useful to go, who is an entrepreneur and who isn't. Like, it's not a very constructive conversation. Unless, in my instance, I was writing a book and I needed a word to describe people who were taking ownership of their life, who were inventing their tomorrows, and who were working on something that they were proud of. So whereas historically an entrepreneur is somebody that runs several businesses, often using external capital, often involving a high degree of risk, I think culturally, and again I'm not talking technical, dictionary definition. I'm talking about how people actually use the word in the real world. I think the word entrepreneur has become less representative of somebody who runs their own business and more representative of somebody who thinks a certain way. I think it's almost become a label to describe a mindset and an approach to life. So as I was writing Unwritten, which looks at everybody from Michelangelo, who was a sculptor turned painter 500 years ago, Albert Einstein, who was a physicist obviously about 100 years ago, a bit over 100 years ago, Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, J.K. Rowling, Sarah Blakely. Now some of these people are entrepreneurs in the traditional sense of the word. However, does that mean that Michelangelo wasn't? And as you look at the guiding principles that guided and informed Michelangelo, for example, his life and his work, are almost identical to the guiding principles that guide the life and the work of, say, a Richard Branson today, who is the extreme sort of uber entrepreneur. And so my definition of entrepreneur today has become anybody who thinks differently, well, who takes ownership of their life, understands they are creating the future, and realizes they are at cause for everything that they are creating. Now that might mean growing a veggie patch. That might mean building a great family. That might mean building a significant career. I reckon just about everybody who works here at the Entourage thinks more entrepreneurially than a lot of entrepreneurs I go and speak to, right? And so again, if you step away from the traditional strict definition and go, what is in somebody's heart? What is in somebody's mind? I think today we have broadened the definition. So my definition of entrepreneur is somebody who understands they're creating their future and therefore does so regardless of how that specifically plays out in their day-to-day. They don't need to be building a business. They could be doing any meaningful pursuit that they're proud of. I'm interested to get your guys' view on this. Again, only for the purpose of, in our conversation, how do we label it, right? But whether someone's called an entrepreneur or called a painter, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day in terms of what they actually do. I think we just need to get on with doing things. However, in the case of writing a book or something like that, I think it does become more pertinent. What is your definition of an entrepreneur? In the comments below, guys, I will be there. Episode 153. It only took Rosie 153 episodes to get the opportunity to ask a question. We love that. In the comments below, I'll chat to you guys there and speak to you tomorrow.
I've sexualized a wish that I dreamed as a kid. 'Cause I'm lighting